All right, picture this. Just outside the busy hum of Atlanta's city life lies Chattahoochee Hills, a place where over 70% of the land is dedicated to green space. 70%. That's not a typo. It's a deliberate effort to create really a natural sanctuary in the middle of what could have just been more urban sprawl. But it's, more than just numbers and percentages. It's about how that green space transforms life here. There's something, I think, very grounding about miles of wooded trails, rolling pastures, and spaces designed to keep nature at the forefront. You can find people hiking, cycling, maybe even riding horseback, all part of their everyday routine. Imagine having that kind of connection to nature, not as a luxury, but as a standard way of life. And speaking of horseback riding, at the heart of this equestrian paradise is Bucurt Farm. This is not just any farm. It spans thousands of acres, offering stunning Chattahoochee river views and a world-class eventing facility. It's the kind of place where you can literally ride for miles, uninterrupted, through landscapes that could easily feature on postcards. It's, hard to find a better example of the community's rural charm than Bucurt Farm. What's especially intriguing about all this, and this really impressed me, is how the community has seamlessly blended recreation with sustainability. It's not just about preserving the land for environmental reasons, though that's vital. It's also about inspiring a lifestyle, like embracing, a more active, mindful way of living surrounded by nature. And these elements come together beautifully through pathways that connect everything. Over 100 miles of trails, whether you walk them, cycle along, or ride horseback, they're designed to integrate with the community in a way that feels very intentional. They lead to experiences, moments. So Chattahoochee Hills really has this fascinating approach to zoning. It's not just about dividing space into, residential, commercial, industrial. It's about crafting an ecosystem where housing, farming, and community hubs coexist in a way that's intentional and, honestly, quite visionary. One standout example is Serembe. Now, if you haven't heard of it, Serembe is what they call a walkable hamlet. Everything there, from the geothermal heating systems to the Earthcraft certified buildings, speaks to a commitment to health, wellness, and sustainability. You walk through it, and it's like this living, breathing extension of the land it's built on. But what's even cooler, I think, is how they've interwoven recreational opportunities and aesthetics into the very fabric of the place. Trails practically invite you to explore. Whether you're out for a casual walk or on a more, purposeful hike or ride. And the architecture, it's not just functional, it's beautiful. Every detail feels so, what's the word? Aligned, I guess, with both nature and quality design. And there's a strong emphasis on social engagement too. Places like Serembe host events, workshops, even performances that connect the community. It's as though the arts and nature go hand in hand here to feed both the body and the soul, if that makes sense. What makes Chattahoochee Hills truly stand out is the way it integrates all these elements, functional spaces that feel like they belong to the land, sustainable living, and design that prioritizes not just aesthetics but also well-being, and of course recreation. All right, diving into another fascinating layer of Chattahoochee Hills, and one that I think really highlights its spirit, is the arts and culture scene here. This isn't just about galleries or staged performances. It's dynamic, interactive, and deeply rooted in the community. A standout here is the Barn Quilt Trail. It's this vibrant outdoor art display scattered across the landscape, blending creativity with the town's rural charm. Imagine driving or walking by and being greeted by these striking, handcrafted quilt patterns. It's like an open-air museum, but much more personal. And then there's the Ag Tour. Now this is something truly special. It marries two of the region's strengths, agriculture and creativity. You get to experience farm-fresh flavours paired with large-scale art installations. It's part farm tour, part cultural adventure, and it solidifies how Chattahoochee Hills celebrates, both its natural roots and its artistic soul. But what I think really stands out about all of this is how it integrates with sustainability. It's not just art for art's sake or farming for practicality, it's a vision that weaves these elements together. A perfect example of this is the Rodale Institute Southeast Organic Centre, which is at the heart of promoting organic farming practices here. They're taking what's traditional, agriculture, and infusing it with innovation to create something, well, forward-thinking. And the community benefits immensely from it, whether it's through accessible farm-to-table dining or just a sense of connection to the land. Education plays into this vision too. The Chattahoochee Hills Charter School is a prime example. It goes beyond, the typical classroom experience. They've built a curriculum that blends creativity, nature, and academics. It's a place where kids are encouraged to think differently, to innovate. And honestly, that feels like the perfect reflection of the town itself. Heritage and imagination, interwoven, fostering something truly unique for the next generation. So whether it's art on a barn wall, sustainable farming that feeds both body and mind, or a school nurturing young minds in harmony with the environment, Chattahoochee Hills doesn't just innovate, it inspires. It takes these seemingly separate threads and creates, well, something larger, something cohesive. Now let's step back, way back, and look at Chattahoochee Hills' history. This area played a pretty pivotal role during the American Civil War. It wasn't just a quiet countryside then, it was strategic. During the Atlanta campaign, the Union Army used it as a key point to sever Confederate supply lines, which, as we know, ultimately contributed to the fall of Atlanta in 1865. That's a pretty significant chapter in American history, and it all happened here on this very land. What's remarkable is how the echoes of that era are still alive today. There are more than 24 preserved antebellum homes in Chattahoochee Hills. Each of them stands as a tangible link to the past, carrying with it stories of resilience, change, and growth. I mean, walking past one of these homes, you really feel transported. It's as though history isn't just something you read about. It's something, you can almost touch and feel. This dedication to preservation doesn't just keep the past intact, it shapes the community's identity. You see, heritage is more than just old buildings or archived stories. It connects people, binds them to the land and to each other. Chattahoochee Hills shows this so vividly. It's similar in a way to other towns that prioritize their roots, like Savannah or Charleston, but Chattahoochee Hills has this unique mix of being rural, historical, and forward-thinking all at once. It's not trying to recreate the past, it's letting the past inspire the present. I remember visiting one of the preserved sites here. Just walking through the halls, you could sense the lives that had been lived there. It's one thing to read about history, but to stand so directly in its footprints, that's something else. It makes you realise how much places like this matter, not just for the stories they tell, but for the wisdom they carry into the future. And with that, we close our exploration of Chattahoochee Hills, a community that wears its legacy with pride while crafting an inspiring vision for the future. I think it's safe to say it's not just a destination, it's an experience, a way of life. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Until next time, take care.